synapses that form from those brain pathways. And I've taught in neuroanatomy since '78. And medical school and higher ed, community college, and I even did an AP biology and A&P course in high school. So lots of different teaching experiences. I've also been a student because I went back and got a second PhD in education about 10 years ago. So I've been an online student, and now I'm doing the administrative role. So I've kind of got all these different things that are coming at me. And so I wanted to share a little bit and also get input from you on basically trying to figure out how to get our courses at Wayland a little bit more accessible, because looking at most of our courses, they're okay courses. They meet some basic standards, but they're really not accessible to all the different users. I wanted to look at universal design for learning and use that as a design process, looking at Blackboard tools and looking at some other tools, in particular one that I brought in early on to really increase our accessibility, which was ReadSpeaker. And so I'll be speaking to you, and then I have Paul.
My name is Paul Stisser. I'm part of business development with ReadSpeaker. Just a little quick background on myself. I'm just not a sales guy in business development. I've actually taught 14 years in the state of New York. I specialized in working in a school that was specific for students who were ADD, ADHD, learning disabled, and also students who are on the spectrum. So I have about 14 years of experience in that, and teaching different course content in that area, but also working in a set of population that were required to have assistive technology in UDL.
Okay, so basically we have a kind of an agenda on here. We're going to define accessibility, look briefly at some of the legal concerns. I know this whole past 2 days we've looked at several different things, components about that. I'm going to spend more time on universal design and what it actually is and why it will help you have your classrooms become accessible, looking at the principles and guidelines. And then I'm going to talk about how I implemented it into our program, and this is an ongoing process. We've just kind of got it started, and we're starting to get feedback, and we're starting to get some courses that are much better than they were originally. And so it's a cultural change that I have to talk about. And then we're going to show ReadSpeaker and how I brought that in, and kind of how I've incorporated it into the classrooms university-wide. And we'll do a little demo and ask questions. You can ask questions, and I'll try to answer them. Probably Paul can answer a lot more on some of the specifics. Okay, so when you talk about accessibility in e-learning, what are you really talking about? I'm talking about access, the key word. And so we want students, no matter how they learn or how they approach material, we want them to be able to acquire it, reach out, interact with it. And we're not even talking disabilities at this point, just in general. As I said, my research is in brain research, and I've looked at pathways, and I know that when you're born, you have pathways set down to learn, and you use all your senses. You use sight, hearing, touch, taste, all the different ones, assuming you have all of the senses intact. And there are certain ones that you tend to use primarily. It's kind of the primary one you set down, and you set several synapses on that one. But you can learn lots of different ways. That's not your only way of learning. You also, for example, with fireworks, you can see the fireworks, you can hear the fireworks, and you can feel the fireworks. All of those are information that come into you. And when you're looking at material in the classroom, you should have that same experience. You should be able to interact with the learning material in several different ways if you want to. When you're trying to learn, you may primarily be a reader, but we also know that sometimes when you hear the word, along with seeing it, that it reinforces that learning. Instead of just one pathway with 4 synapses, maybe you're using 2 pathways with 8 synapses, and it's more likely to become a memory or an instilled memory in your brain. So when we look at access, we want to see what can we do to make digital material accessible to all learners, no matter what. Now, we have to add in the legal aspect, right? Because we are all coming up with lawsuits over the places. The Office of Civil Rights is coming in and saying, things aren't quite right. So I'm going to briefly just kind of go through those at the next slide. Hopefully. Okay, and I'm going to skip through these fast. General timeline, so we've had this since 1973, where all of these issues of a disabled person in some way needs to access the content, and so this was all new. We didn't have a lot of digital content. We weren't using the internet yet, but it's grown into that and reinterpreted and revisited. So from 73 on, and with Title II in 1990. And next slide, if you look at basically 504 is really about the individual, the person with the disability. And so we're banning the discrimination on the basis of that disability. So we want to say that that person can access all the different material. And what 504 comes out and does is says, okay, in your K through 12, you're going to have a plan, a 504 plan that's going to say certain accommodations have to be made to match this disability. In higher ed, we call the letter of accommodation. You're given that by the Office of Disability with the student, and you look to see whether they need certain aspects more time on a test, certain kind of signing, whatever happens along that line, and you're supposed to accommodate them. So 504 is really about an individual with a particular need for an accommodation. In 508 is the broad, looking everywhere. Okay, we need, in this case, electronic and information technology that's basically everything on campus. It doesn't matter whether you've got somebody identified with a disability. You're looking at students who access, and they may be undeclared. I may not want my boss to know that I'm slightly dyslexic, because that may come across as a detrimental thing in my career. So I can get by, I can read all right, I have to struggle, it takes a little bit longer, but I can get through the material, so I don't want a letter of accommodation. Or perhaps I have English as a second language, and I speak it really well, but I don't read it so well. Or there's all sorts of different possibilities along that where you're not really talking about a declared disability, but we have people who address material in different ways. So 508 looks over everything that you've got on campus, even if you don't have a disability, so it all has to be accessible. And then we have Title II that came out. It's primarily about communication, making sure that you have ways of communicating with everyone in all different forms in the same time, real sense, and anything that you're going to work with as far as disabilities or applicants, whether they're disabled or not. So that's kind of a nutshell of the law. So what happens when I come to my faculty and I say, your course is inaccessible. I notice that you don't have certain things in your course. Your video should be captioned, so make it so. What's the faculty response? No, I don't have time. I'm a faculty member, I know. I don't have time. I can't do that. Why is the government getting into every single thing in my classroom? Why don't they just let me teach? Right? That's generally the response. And so what you have to do is, and that's what my faculty at Wayland does, God bless them, they're very good faculty members, but that's what they're going to do. So you have to really approach it as a cultural change. What we need to do is have them realize that if you want to be a good instructor, you want your material to be accessible. If we're good instructors, good teachers, we're going to put material out there so that different people can learn in whatever way they can. And for example, if I'm laying tile, a video with probably written instructions, but video will be a lot more helpful than just the written instructions. So if I could have a couple of different ways to learn how to do that, for me, that works pretty well. There may be some people out there who need to hear something, and so they might learn that particular thing in hearing, but if they're going to lay tile, they want to see it. So you have to realize that there are different ways to present materials, different way to get your content out there. So that's my approach, is a cultural change. We want Wayland to be known that we have courses that reach out to all learners, no matter their way of learning, their means of learning, or disability. And so I'm coming at approaching it as a universal design matter. When I talk about universal design, I tell them a little bit about a framework. How many of you brought your suitcases up the sidewalk ramp when you're pulling it behind you to get into the building? Okay. How many of you have had your arms full and you hit that square so the doors open up so you can get in a little bit easier because you've got your arms full, you can't pull the door open? Or walking up a stairs, you've got a railing you hold on to keep your balance, and maybe it's not so much balance, but if you're in a hurry, it's kind of nice to have that guide along that. All of those are universally designed components that are put into a building framework. And it's set by law, and it makes the building more accessible. And it's not just for people with disabilities, it helps all of us. Oops, sorry. And so this is the same idea in design. Universal design for learning is providing a framework for our faculty members so that they can kind of follow and fit into this accessible kind of materials. So if we have a framework, we have beams or girders. So sometimes they come in at right angles, sometimes they come in end to end, sometimes they cross. And so you're going to find that the three principles of universal design are sometimes intersect, and you can be addressing one principle and actually addressing all three principles at the same time. But what they do is they form a framework, and then the instructor is going to use their own resources or ideas or tools that Blackboard has, or tools that we provide for them either sitting on Blackboard or outside Blackboard software-wise, so that they can fill in that classroom. They can put up the electrical, the plumbing, the drywall, and add in all the embellishments to make it look really nice, but it's going to make it a very good, strong learning space with good content within it. And the idea is, it's not a curriculum, it's not a checklist, it's instructors that are using resources that we provide and that they have, maybe from their own experiences, and with a little bit of guidelines within those principles, they'll have rooms that are accessible. So, three basic principles. Multiple means is the key word. Multiple means of representation, multiple means of action and expression, and multiple means of engagement. So representation is kind of what the instructor's putting out there and how they're going to get their materials out there. Action and expression is kind of how is the student going to let you know what they learned, kind of through assessment or assignments or something along that line. And engagement is just that. How are you going to interact and engage? And you'll see pretty quickly that there is some overlap on this. So basically for representation, there are three guidelines that universal design presents. Options for perceptions. So that's an idea of, okay, well, if you've got something in text, could you present it in audio? If you've got something in audio, could you present it either exactly the same or a little bit different in text or some visual component? If you've got something that's visual, can you present it in some other way? So just looking at multiple means of alternatives of getting some of that information out there. You don't have to put everything in all different forms. Remember, I can learn lots of different ways. I've got probably a primary way that I learn, or one or two that I'm really strong on, but I can learn other ways. But it's really nice when I get into a classroom when I've got one of my primary ways and I can just zip right through it. I can say, oh, I get that, I understand it. But if I have to struggle every single time with something that's not quite the way I learned, it gets really frustrating. But if I have to do that every once in a while, it's okay. Sometimes it's challenging. So you don't have to have it every time, but just put some different ways out there. Options for language, mathematical expressions, and symbols. I teach pathophysiology. There are medical terms out there and descriptive terms that my students struggle with. They don't even know how to say them sometimes. And so if I can make sure that they've got the vocabulary in some way, or that they know what a symbol means, or that they know what a mathematical expression means, make sure that if you're putting material out there that is very, very unusual or not very common, that you provide the students with some means of understanding those expressions. And then we're talking comprehension. Really, if you get your material out there in lots of different forms and ways that give the student a chance to interact a little bit, then their comprehension will be better. They're more likely to be satisfied in the classroom. They're more likely to stay in, so we've improved retention. But we really want to help their comprehension. And one of the ways we can do that is background knowledge. And I tell my instructors, you could give them background knowledge. You could have the students bring in the knowledge that they have, the experiences that they have, or you could have them go out and find some of that to bring in, or you could bring in a guest speaker. There's lots of different ways to bring in background knowledge, ways to make sure that you can help them find the key points or big ideas and maybe highlight those in some way. Just different ways of information processing, maybe help them figure out how to organize it so it starts to cement in their mind. So that's one of the girders or feet of universal design, the representation. The next one is the action principle. So this is the students kind of thing. What are the students going to do to be able to get the knowledge and be able to use it? And some of that is kind of how are they going to navigate through the material? What tools could they have to show that they understand the material or that they can use the material? So you perhaps might give them an assignment to do something. Create a video, create a project, create using a group, create a project using those particular things. And you can go through all the different tools. You might have Blackboard Collaborate so that they can work together in a group of some sort. Bring in some of the wikis so that they can create a document together to go ahead and do that. So different ways to navigate or use tools and figure out which ones are best for your course. You don't need 20 different tools in your course. Some really well-chosen ones are more important than lots of tools. Provide options for expression and communication. There's lots of different ways to communicate. We could do blogs, we could have discussions, and I think we're beating a dead horse when we've got a discussion, question, response, and 2 replies. Okay, could we do something different out there? I mean, that's gotten like a rote response. They don't even read through the instructions because they're pretty sure that's what you're going to say. And that's what my instructors do. And it's like, really? Is that the only way you're going to interact in the classroom? You want your students to tell you that because they're just going to give you some rote answer. So find some way that they could debate. Also, it's pretty good to help them with a little bit of goal setting. Making sure that they know and they can self-assess if they're progressing. So that they know whether, okay, I've got that comment. Okay, that's good. I got that concept. Because we know from research that if you have feedback, so instructors can give good feedback, then I feel like I've accomplished something. I've reached that goal, that's good, I understand it, now I'm ready to go on. But if they're frustrated all the time, they start to lose interest, they stop participating in the class, and pretty soon they're going to take that W, or maybe their WF, and drop out of the class. The last one is engagement, and now you can see how we're starting to overlap on some of these, because certainly my video assignment, involves some engagement with the class a little bit, but the idea that students can have some choice. A lot of research on satisfaction is the ability to choose some things, feel like they're in control of their classroom, that they're being successful in the classroom, and so if they have a little bit of choice and they can see the relevancy of it, that's really good. I try to bring in some current events, Zika virus, Ebola, big discussions when I bring in something that's current. And so we could be in the discussion board and we could debate something, whether this is a good thing, an ethical thing to do, rather than just, you know, what are the three primary instances where Ebola, you know, is found or something. Well, everybody's going to have the same answer. That's not a real discussion. Minimizing threats and distractions. There's lots of things that are threats to students being successful. Sometimes we put a lot of temporal barriers in. I have a lot of students that are military, and if I say they have to post by Wednesday and they're out in the field, they may not get there. So I might have to make some accommodations on that. If I have a parent who is a single parent and they're trying to get their kids to different activities, and I put a certain temporal basis on there, I have to be careful about that. Not that that's a wrong thing to do. We do have to have limits and due dates, but sometimes there has to be a little bit of flexibility. So think about which ones you can be flexible on and which ones you have to be standing on that date, and make sure it's in the syllabus and that they understand that there are some things that they have to be, and then other things they'll have a little bit of change. And so that's a little bit less threatening. Goals, collaboration, self-assessment, rubrics. Even a rubric in a course is really good for self-assessment. So if you've got something on there, the students can see, yes, I've got this. No, I don't have that. Okay, I better go back and redo something or add something. So rubrics are good. All of those are things that you can add to a course that makes it more accessible. It helps the student gather the material and use the material and interact with the material. So those are the three basic principles and some of the guidelines that go with it. So I bring that to my faculty, and what's their answer going to be? I can't do all those. I have so much stuff in my course. How do I make all of those things? I can't do that. Okay, so my answer to that is do +1 thinking. And this is how I've implemented the UDL into our program. And I said, we're a work in progress. I'm looking at 2 years down the line and hoping that most of our courses will be accessible, pretty much accessible at that point. And I'm not asking them yet to do the video captioning. I don't have that in my budget yet. There are 3 people in my office. We have 4,000 students, 400 faculty members, and we're it. And so we are gradually captioning and picking up, and we're in that movement, trying to get them away from the 40-minute lectures into the 10 minutes or 4 minutes and some activity in there. But I ask them to do, in every course that they're teaching, when they start the term, to add one thing or change one thing. It might be one more way to present a particular part of the content. It might be one more way to express how the student would express what they've learned. Maybe a different way to figure out how they're going to interact and regulate their time and get their projects together. Maybe one more way to motivate the student by bringing in something that's a really neat discussion or makes a dry point better. And I told them to look to see what are the students always asking about, or what did they get wrong when you assess them? Or, you know, are you getting emails about this one thing over and over and over again? Those are good places to start. And you can go ahead and make that better. And what's interesting is that 1+ thinking has worked really well, because they'll go in and they'll change one piece of content like in the first week, okay? going to get this out of the way so I don't have to do anything else the next 11 weeks. And so they go ahead and change that one piece, and the students think it's great. And it's all this interaction, or the students will comment and they'll go, that was a great video. Oh, that worked pretty well. And then they go, well, I can do that this week. I'll try it week 4. I'm going to do something. And suddenly they haven't done just one thing, you know, or maybe they've done the same thing a couple of times in that course. And so if they're teaching 4 courses, they've got to do one thing in each of the 4 courses, but it ends up they're doing a little bit more. And so we're gradually getting there. If I'm asking them to do this, now I came into this job as a distance learning specialist. I work virtually from Abilene, which is 3.5 hours away from the main campus. I work from my home. And when I first came on, they asked me to run the program, and I said, I'm not moving to the middle of a cotton field, sorry. And they said, well, we don't know if this will work. If you work virtually, let's give it a try. So I worked from home, working there, and it all worked together, and then they asked me to be the director after that. But as we were coming in, I said, if I'm going to ask this +1 for all my faculty, I need administratively to do +1 for the university, for all the students and all the faculty administratively. So what could I do? And I found this really cool tool 4 years ago called ReadSpeaker. And at the time it didn't read documents, it just read the website. And I said, well, that's really cool because it's text to speech. And so it could go through and read the text. Well, okay, well that would be good for some people with particular disabilities, but when I brought it in, it was really interesting. I was considering all the different people who might have advantages with it, and what I've learned from feedback is that it's a really interesting tool. We do have some in Braille Literacy. I mean, these kids are in college, but they're coming from tiny little farm communities that have sometimes not the best programs in, so we're trying to get them up with remedial courses, and so they're not the best readers in the world. We have dyslexia, we have English as a second, third, fourth language for some. We have some low vision, a couple of blind students. We have our first deaf student, we have several hard of hearing. And then we have military. We have physical disabilities, we have traumatic brain injuries, we have PTSD, a lot of things that aren't seen, that sometimes aren't even talked about, and they're coming in. And so those are people I had to kind of consider when I'm looking at my learners, what tool would work really well. And then we also have some demographic stuff. I've got some older students, I have some really old students, I have some really young students. Economic status is on all sides of the spectrum. I have a lot of working adults and active duty military, so they're deployed, different things to consider along that line. Single parents. So I'm kind of looking at all these different demographics that fit in, and this tool just seemed an easy way to get started. And then they added the document reader, which made it really nice, because what I found out was my nursing students in San Antonio have an hour commute. They can go ahead and download MP3s of documents of case studies or papers that they have to listen to, and they can go ahead and play those, or they could open up the website on their phone or their tablet and hit play, and they can listen to it that way. So now we're multitasking. Hopefully they're not doing this. They're driving too much, and don't push the button that way, but I'm not going to go there. So they've got one's doing that. I've got active duty military who take those MP3s out of the field where they have no internet. But I have a lot of students that really enjoy, with different learning styles, they say, oh, it makes it so nice because I can hear. You know, I read it, okay, but when I hear it, it makes so much more sense. And so they've learned that by using ReadSpeaker, that they're hearing it. And that's kind of that bimodal learning now. They've got not only are they seeing the words, but they're hearing the words at the same time, and it kind of sticks in a little bit more. I've read a lot about reading fatigue in different scientific papers, different journals, distance learning journals, and we've got students who are taking 4 courses. Maybe they got lots and lots and lots of reading, and you know how that is. After about 2 or 3 hours during the night, you're like, do I have to read one more thing? Well, they can go ahead and let ReadSpeaker read it to them. So I've heard of many students doing that. They said that's kind of nice, or they can listen to it while they're doing the dishes, or the kids, you know, in the bathtub, or something like that. But the reading fatigue is more of that, it's just too much reading. And so rather than just not reading anymore, if they can listen to it, it motivates them, keeps them motivated into the course. So we've got lots of different learning styles and preferences. Personalized, you can personalize how you want to read, how you want to learn. So this tool has turned out to be a really good thing for us, and that's kind of why I'm together with Paul, because it's been an interesting way to help us use that tool and make our content more accessible. So now I've got a broad spectrum one that everybody has access to, and now my faculty are starting to change their courses gradually so that hopefully we'll get accessible. I think we've got some, I'm just going to kind of demo it. So basically, if you improve the accessibility, not only with disabilities, but everybody, we've got a universally designed product. So talking about that universally designed building, these are all products that are really good. Blackboard has all sorts of accessibility. We've got the different tools that build on top of it, and so that universal design improves the quality of the content. And then the idea that you can use mobile devices with it, I've got a lot of people who depend on mobile. 65% of my students use mobile devices to learn. They don't use a computer most of the time. They use their phones or tablets. And so that's a pretty important part of our learning world. So I wanted to show you a little bit about some classroom examples, and hopefully this is going to work. Just kind of talking about universal design, and basically I've got a list of weekly activities that they can read through, and you can see the ReadSpeaker icon that's put there. You'll notice there's grab bars, so they can put it up or down depending where they want to locate it on their menu, and it collapses out of the way if they're not using it. And if you expand it and you hit play, and you go ahead, you can say where to start it.
How you approach this week depends on your background and comfort with genetics. I will provide some of the materials, videos, and images. The following activities need to be accomplished.
So the student can go ahead and change the color in what's highlighted, change the text color. You could go ahead and go do that. You could underline things. And if you scroll down and hit the enhanced text, let's put that on. And then you can ask it how fast you want to read it. If you're reading something that has lots of technical words, you might want it to read slower. And if it's, you just want to listen to it, you want to get through it, you can read faster.
How you approach this week depends on your background and comfort with genetics. I will provide some of the materials,
so you can see how
and images.
Pops it up so that you can actually see the word as it talks along the line. For the universal design, I've got a basic text entrance. I've got a PDF of kind of PowerPoints. I've got chapter summaries with audio files. I have mini lectures that I put up so that they can look at a point. So I kind of go on the 10+2 idea, kind of 10 minutes of stuff that they have to do, read, interact stuff, and then they have to do something for a couple. And so if I can chunk it in that component, that's a good idea. I don't have my videos captioned yet. I've been doing training videos because I thought those were more important to get those captioned at this point. And then if we have a student who needs captioning, then that becomes a priority for whichever courses we pick, so that we'll pick that course and get them up. And that's how we'll kind of put on our money here. Let's see. You want to show the PDFs?
Sure.
Or do you want to go? You think?
Oh, no, I just wanted to show the download into an MP3 file. It is up there.
Oh, good. Okay. I had problems finding my download for MP3 on there, so that's good. So you want to go ahead and give some of the ins and outs here?
Well, I think you've got a trip.
Sure.
How good is the read speaker at some of your technical terms? Because you were talking about students how you learn to pronounce certain things.
It's actually really good, and I found that it follows it, and then if you see that it's not doing something really well in a technical term, you can talk to Read Speaker, and you can let them know that, you know, this is not being pronounced correctly, or the problem, and they have all sorts, well, he can tell you, they have all sorts of different people that work with it to make it correct, because I have a lot of different terms.
I think also that, you know, we work with so many publishers. We have roughly close to 12,000 clients. We're really starting to become ubiquitous, and we work with a lot of major publishers and medical organizations. So a lot of the difficult terminology has already been vetted, but also you do have control of your dictionary. So if something is not being pronounced accurately, you can either go in and adjust it with a reading rule, or you can contact your rep, and that rep will go in, and usually turnaround in that is less than 24 hours. Sure. So what we're going to show here is Dr. Trish did a great job of showcasing it, and it's been such a great pleasure working with her. This is actually the newer component of Read Speaker, and it is our doc reader. Our doc reader is going to be supporting and providing an inline document viewing tool for your documents that are in Blackboard Learn. So your PDF, your Word docs, your PowerPoints, your Excels, your EPUBs, these all can be, as they're uploaded, and can be opened, and it is going to be showcased in this. So very similar to what we talked about, you can go in and modify the text, increase the font, change the color. Let's say you have difficulty seeing the color red. You have that ability to go in and modify the content, and then it then dynamically will revert back to the original PDF, Word doc, PowerPoint that is, you know, that is there. So you have the ability to go through and do that. So this is an example of that. So you can see how it's changed the font, and the functionality is there to go in and change and modify, add in reading rulers, masks, and any type of tools like that to support it. Just some basic background on Read Speaker. We've been around since 1999. We're not new kids on the block. You know, I already shared that we have, you know, over 10,000 clients. We do have the best voices on the market. We not only create our own voices, but we also license other vendors out there, and we give that choice to you. We support over 40 languages and roughly over 100 voices to evaluate, to support your program, to decide which ones that you want to go with. There was a study that just came out last week, and we rated #1 with a 98.6% accuracy in our pronunciation. So we beat out AT&T, Microsoft, and Nuance and other providers of that nature for TTS. So best in the market, but also I think that comes down to the learning experience. We want to make sure with the learning fatigue that the end user is enjoying the content as much as possible. You know, we have millions of users daily as they kick on there, but you know, the one thing that I always like to emphasize, Read Speaker is and always has been SaaS. We're software as a service, we're in the cloud, there's nothing for the end user to download. So it is released in the Blackboard building block. You can see where the player shows up. It expands, and it's that UDL model right there for all individuals. Technically, how does it work? Well, you highlight it, or you can press play, it kicks out to our servers, and it kicks back, and it's generating audio. And I think some of the other things that we've done,
just go ahead.
Oh no, and some of the other things that we've done to really enhance the UDL on campus is recently we've launched some of our supports for instructional designers, faculty, and students, course packets, to make them available. So it's been great working with faculty and individuals like Trish who do an amazing job of making content available to all.
So trying to get back to the soft chalk. We even have it so that it embeds in soft chalk. There's lots of different tools you can use. But soft chalk will actually, if you have a soft chalk lesson, you can embed your read speaker in there, and it'll read soft chalk lesson too.
Yeah. So not only do we have the building block, but we also do have it available for soft chalk. We were going to show that, and I also did want to just share on our website that we do have a download packet that can be evaluated, to support your faculty. And then the other thing that I like to always add is that with our building block, you have your testing environments, you have your QAs, you can have free evaluations to kick the tires on Read Speaker. All we really need is your URL, and we select voices and give you a chance to go through and evaluate. In your pre-production or your QA testing environment, you evaluate to see how it is. And then you follow up with our team, to provide the feedback, questions and answers and different things like that.
We're on my time,
Yeah.
so we got any questions that we can answer? Yes.
Does it work with any other learning management system?
Yes, so we do support 4 major LMSs in the marketplace. So we do support Canvas, Moodle, D2L, but every integration is a little different. We have a very nice integration with Blackboard with a building block.
Thanks.
Does it accurately read
MathML.
mathematical equations?
So depending on how you have it set up in the reading order of that, yes, it can be supported. We also have, once again, the plethora of different functionality that we offer. We do have math dictionaries to where we'll adjust the reading. You just have to let us know that this is going to be a math-heavy course. And then there are other ways that we do support MathML in our content too.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting sometimes with math.
I can imagine.
Yes.
How does it work with Apple math products? Does it work the same equally for?
So that's what we're running on right now.
Yeah, so I'm running on a Mac right now. Once we are, and I probably didn't mention this, and it's one of my commandments that I always talk about. We work on all devices. We work on all platforms, mobile responsive. So it's going to be, your PC, your Macs, your tablets, your phones, your desktops. To really support that mobile learner that's out there.
So, and one more question. The student who they enter into the Blackboard environment, the tool is inside of the LMS. They have a external link that goes out to the internet. Will it read that link, or that link will be posted within the LMS system?
So that is a great question. So the functionality is designed to be the content in Blackboard Learn. Yes, you're right. However, we do offer more. Our other product on the back of the pamphlets you have is called Texting. This is really geared to support working with the Disability Services Office, students who receive accommodations. So with that, there is a bookmarklet that we have. So if you see my web reader right here, it is actually just a bookmarklet that is added. So that would drop down if you were a text aid client, and then it would read anything externally. So it would read the New York Times, it would read Washington Post, so on and so forth, and it would support it in that way. So there are different ways to expand the functionality in Blackboard Learn, but then also out if that is the need of the program.
And right now on Blackboard Learn, you don't use the mobile app that is in production. We're going to get that integration down, but right now you go to a browser and open up Blackboard in the browser. Hopefully we'll get the mobile app.
It's on our roadmap.
Yep. Any other questions? All right, I guess we're ready to party now. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Using Read Speaker and Blackboard with the Read Speaker building block. Blackboard is one of the market leaders in learning management systems. Blackboard's flagship LMS, Blackboard Learn, is available for integration onto client servers or as a cloud-based service. ReadSpeaker is a Blackboard signature partner, providing a Blackboard building block in order to integrate ReadSpeaker's text-to-speech technology into the Blackboard Learn environment. As an official Blackboard partner, the ReadSpeaker building block can be found on the Blackboard website as a building block. However, it is necessary to contact ReadSpeaker in order to obtain this building block. The ReadSpeaker text-to-speech functionality can be made available on all courses in Blackboard. Or on select courses, the ReadSpeaker Listen icon appears at the bottom left of the course window, where the learner can activate it if desired. The activated Listen button can then be moved to the desired position. The Help functionality explains how to use the button. ReadSpeaker allows the text on the page to be read out loud to you. It provides you assistance if you have trouble reading text online. By having the text material read out loud to you, you can understand the information on the website more easily. ReadSpeaker's text-to-speech functionality can read aloud HTML content available within the Blackboard environment, including course modules, quizzes, assignments, and discussions. What is text-to-speech? Speech synthesis is the artificial production of human speech. A computer system used for this purpose is called a speech computer or speech synthesizer, and can be implemented in software or hardware products. Learners can follow along with the synchronized highlighting. Bimodal learning, that is reading and listening simultaneously, has been proven to increase retention and comprehension among all learners. Within the ReadSpeaker player, learners can set individual preferences for settings, including reading speed, highlighting colors, text magnifying, and automatic scrolling. In addition to reading HTML content, ReadSpeaker Doc Reader is also available in Blackboard to read aloud documents in a variety of formats. Text-to-speech technology as inclusive reading practice. Changing perspectives, overcoming barriers. Michelin Parr, Schulich School of Education. Abstract. Many students struggle to read well enough to support learning in various areas of the curriculum. Documents can be displayed in both layout mode and text mode, so learners can better concentrate on document content. Use the screen masking tool and reading ruler to help focus on the text. Within text mode, learners can also adjust individual preferences for highlighting and text colors. Because ReadSpeaker Doc Reader is cloud-based, learners do not have to download any additional technology to view documents. Implementing the ReadSpeaker building block onto your Blackboard environment is very simple. ReadSpeaker provides comprehensive instructions that take you, step by step, through implementation. Our support team is also available to assist, should that be required. The ReadSpeaker building block is a one-time implementation, so once you have added the building block, there's no need to edit the ReadSpeaker functionality, even if you edit or add course material. The ReadSpeaker building block can be added to your entire Blackboard platform. It is also possible to add ReadSpeaker's text-to-speech technology on a course-by-course basis. Simply install and configure the building block, and your Blackboard environment is ready to be read aloud. The ReadSpeaker building block for Blackboard is a simple and straightforward way to enhance your learning content with text-to-speech. Learners can listen to course material of their choice, at their own pace. Integrating text-to-speech functionality has been shown to improve learning outcomes, so why not begin enhancing your Blackboard environment today? All you need to get started is the Blackboard building block, and your ReadSpeaker account information, provided to you by your ReadSpeaker account manager. Contact us today to find out more about adding ReadSpeaker text-to-speech to your Blackboard environment.